if you are going to use a credit card, use only one credit card and use it for these holiday purchases, and then you only put as much on the credit card as you can pay off in January. And I know, a lot of times the marketing is, get this zero interest credit card, use it, pay it off in January or February. The reality is, I believe that the research would show that the majority of consumers don't actually manage to pay it off. And so best intentions and all of that, and we recognize that, but be aware of what your past habits are because it's a really good predictor of your future behavior.
Halloween is fast approaching, and for many that marks the beginning of the end-of-year holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and other December celebrations, and New Year's Eve. By outlining a plan now, Kansas State University Family Resource Management Specialist Elizabeth Kish says we give ourselves an opportunity to take advantage of sales and other price discounts that retailers are offering. She also says we need to look at how much we have on hand to spend and how much we want to spend. On today's Sound Living, managing holiday spending. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman. Kish encourages families to save money year-round for emergencies and end-of-year holiday spending. However, if that fund is running low, she says there's still a little time left to add to it. Elizabeth, we haven't even got to Halloween yet, but we're already thinking about Thanksgiving and then the holidays that follow and all of the expenses that are associated with those three holidays. Probably not so much for Halloween, but as we get to Thanksgiving and Christmas, really the spending is going to ramp up.
Right. But actually, I wouldn't discount Halloween as a spending holiday, and I would add a fourth, which is New Year's Eve. So definitely, I think people are starting to talk about it. Certainly, retailers want us to be thinking about the holidays. They're starting to stock holiday merchandise. So it's a really good time to plan ahead. Think about how you would like to celebrate this year.
As we look at holiday spending, we're really starting to hope that people have already set some money aside. But if they haven't, it's not too late. You can start to build that fund now.
That's right. It isn't too late. It may be getting close to an opportunity to really save ahead. But what you could do is decrease your other spending right now and then substitute your holiday spending for that and then just keep within your total monthly spending that you've been doing. I think the best thing, really to get a handle on it is start with sort of thinking big. What would you like to do? The dream big and then get real. And so think about all the things you might like to do and then really take a cold, hard look at what your resources are. And don't discount time either because a lot of these holiday preparations take time. So then think about how much time and then how much money do you want to spend and how much money can you really afford to spend or can your budget really handle, I think. But if you would like to cut back on some things, as you've said, cut back on spending on other areas before the holidays and substitute, then that works too.
One of the things I saw that was kind of an easy fix would just be to maybe skip a coffee every once in a while and put that money away, or every day if you're somebody who stops by and gets a coffee every day.
That's right. So some of those small habits, what we often call spending leaks, but they can be really useful as a way to redirect your spending.
We always start with making a list, and in this case, we're probably going to have a fairly long list because we're going to be looking at people who we want to buy for and maybe even some supplies, some shipping costs that may come in there, decorations. A lot of things could go on that list.
Right. So if we think about the end of the year holidays, I think first of all, Thanksgiving, that's really, I think, a food holiday and maybe a decorating to some extent holiday. And then Christmas or other gift-giving holidays in December are about food, getting together, and the gifts, right? And so I would say if you have a list, at least in my mind, I go to columns like, okay, what do we want for food? What do I need for gifts, decorations, and then other hospitality items? And just, keep a running list if you're able to. And I guess one thing I would say about starting early, though, is it could create a situation where you overspend because you've started early and then you just buy more and more and more and or you forget what you've already purchased. So that's why if you have a plan, you have a list, you can keep track of what you have purchased, what you have left to purchase, and you don't buy duplicates and you stay within your budget.
I've actually started wrapping gifts as I buy them, and then I keep them in one spot, and I kind of know with our kids we try and keep it to roughly the same number of gifts. I'm sure a lot of other families do that as well, but that's another way to do it, is just to really physically see what you have.
That's right. And you're right, especially when it's partly with children, it's often about the visual more than the content sometimes. Although I did see some research that indicates that consumers really are interested about quality of merchandise this year. But of course, as usual, it's the sales or price discounts that are probably leading their decision making. And if that's the case for you, then starting early can be really helpful because these things will be going on sale, likely many items. And so if you start early and you're keeping your eyes open, you can probably take advantage of some of those price discounts.
So not only knowing who you want to buy for, but maybe what you would like to get them.
Right. And maybe it's, again, dream big, plan real, figure out, these are types of items or this is the universe of what we might get. And then you just start seeing what you can find. And at the prices that you want to spend, you cross it off. And then if we take your advice, wrap them so you have this visual of, what's the pile of presents going to look like, then maybe you're all set.
We can only hope.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but then there's people like me who like to wait till the last minute, and that's the fun part, right?
Well, and some people do that. You probably do that because you're an economist and you're thinking that sometimes if the retailers haven't made as much as they would like, they may discount things even further.
Well, they may. That's a good point. I think it's also, I like to keep a hold of my money until the very last minute, but...
Are you saying you're tight?
Maybe a little bit.
Oh, you're probably also one of those people then who uses cash because that's another thing that we really encourage.
Yeah, I do try to use cash just because I can keep track of what I'm spending. I know how much I have left in what my sort of mental budget is. For some people, even like keeping an envelope of cash or keeping the cash separate so that when you're done, you're done. If you are going to use a credit card, there's different ways to handle that. Use only one credit card and use it for these holiday purchases. And then you only put as much on the credit card as you can pay off in January. This is January debt hangover. And I know, a lot of times the marketing is, get this 0 interest credit card, use it, pay it off in January or February. The reality is, I believe that the research would show that the majority of consumers don't actually manage to pay it off. And so best intentions and all of that, and we recognize that, but be aware of what your past habits are because it's a really good predictor of your future behavior.
Well, and along those same lines, there's also a lot of opportunities for people to get a store card because they might save 15% up front, but you've got to remember that, again, if you don't pay that off right away, you're looking at probably 29% interest.
Right. So I think it really is an opportunity to do some of this comparison shopping of do you really save that much? It's not a sale. Or you don't save the 15% if you end up paying the 29% interest over maybe multiple months.
From a technology standpoint, there are some other things that we can maybe look into to save along the line, and that would be looking for some of those apps that may give you some money back and things like that.
Sure. I think, again, my thought about any opportunities that are presented as opportunities to save money, really understand what that means. We talked about the credit cards. With the apps also, just understand what it means. What are the terms? What are you giving up? Are you giving up privacy? How much personal information are you giving to them in return for this discount? Is it good only for the end of the year holidays, or is it something you might continue to use going forward? Would it encourage you to spend more than you really want to? And are the discounts on things that you really want and need? Because it's no good for something to be on sale if you're not going to use it.
So maybe more along the lines of using the computer to do the comparison online shopping as opposed to going out and looking for other apps and other ways to find that.
Well, yeah. There's a lot of different ways to save money, and I probably have my shopping habits and other people have theirs. So if it works for you, fine. But I guess I would just think about, is it really saving money and in a useful way to you?
And I guess also that thinking locally, I know that's a big push, especially We're seeing a lot of commercials for that right now to think small, shop locally, and take care of the small business owners.
Right. That's correct, too. And I think it gets down to what's on your list. What are you looking for? Can you buy it locally? The other thing we didn't talk about is I know we keep hearing about delivery times are extending, right? And so you need to plan ahead this year for sure. And buying local can actually help with some of that. If you can pick it up locally, you don't have to build in the shipping times.
We also have an opportunity to look at some meaningful gifts this time of year. It doesn't have to necessarily be something off of a store shelf. It can be something we've made or something that we found at a garage sale or maybe an antique store, something like that.
Right. And it's also an opportunity to, we sort of, in my family, we have some jokes about this, as I'm sure many families do. But when the grandparents or the parents, they start passing down family items, and maybe they're all very lovely items, but you may not be at a life stage where you're actually able to enjoy it or use it or have a place to store it. So that can be problematic, but it also can be a way to pass down those family items that have value within the family that are treasured. And it's really nice if it works out where the giver and the item and the receiver are all very happy about it. Doesn't always work that way, but
yeah, if it's something that they want or something that you have decided you're going to give them later, give it to them now. Might be an opportunity.
Yeah. I guess we also might mention, holidays are not always the best time to introduce a new pet to the household. In addition to sort of all the costs that are associated with that, there's a lot going on in the household, and maybe people won't have the opportunity to really focus and acclimate and socialize, especially a young pet, into the household at that time.
Probably makes a lot of kids list that they'd like a dog or a cat, but as you say, not the best time to do it.
Right.
Also, we might consider just keeping things simple. We don't always have to go way overboard. We could just kind of have a nice, relaxing holiday.
Right. Yeah, so I think one of the really nice conversations to have now leading up to sort of the end of the year holidays with your family is, what would really make you happy? What is it about our past celebrations that you really have enjoyed and would like to continue? And are there things that maybe we don't need to do anymore? I know we had a conversation like that actually, and the timing was really good earlier in the fall with my parents. And, we just said, we're to an age, we don't necessarily need gifts anymore. We like to spend time. We like to have good food. We like to bake. So why don't we focus on that going forward? And of course, the parents were like, well, we enjoy getting you gifts, so we'll see. But, at least we had the conversation and we opened up the door for some simplicity.
I know parents are always glad to just see their children, so that in itself is kind of a gift. But you bring up another thing that people are going to have to consider, and that is whether to travel or not travel, and how far in advance to buy tickets. Does it make a difference when you buy your tickets? That sort of thing also comes into play.
Yeah, I think maybe the whole thing about tickets is really understand the cancellation policies and any refund policies if you're buying tickets. If you're going to drive, it's a little bit more flexible. However, living in the Midwest, in Kansas, we know that there could be bad weather. Who knows?
And we never know what the hotel situation is going to be like, so that's another thing if you're not able to stay with the people you're going to visit.
Right. Yeah. So I think everyone has to, as any year, and it has to fit within your budget. It has to be within your plans. And then just some of the more recent considerations for health also adds another dimension.
One of the things we should really be thinking about is the fact that we want the holidays to be an enjoyable time, and if we're stressed about money, we're stressed about spending money, that's probably not the right way to go about this. Do it to where I saw something that said, spend what you're comfortable spending and don't go beyond that.
Yeah, but it's kind of like eat until you're full, but don't go beyond that. You don't know it necessarily until you're uncomfortably full or you've uncomfortably spent. But I do agree with that. I think it's true that things can be more enjoyable if we keep them simple, if we focus on what's the real point, why are we doing it, what brings us the most pleasure and our families the most pleasure, which doesn't always cost money.
That's K-State Research and Extension Family Resource Management Specialist Elizabeth Kish. To learn more about managing your money, contact your local county or district extension office. Sound Living is a weekly public affairs program produced by Research and Extension at Kansas State University. I'm Jeff Wichman, and this is the K-State Radio Network.